Alright, now it's time for the word problem. Dun dun dun. While marching, a drum major tosses a baton into the air and catches it. The height of the baton, t seconds after it is thrown, can be modeled by the function blah. So basically, if this is your x and y axis, the baton goes boo. It goes up in the air and comes back down. And since the maximum is going to be the vertex, we're going to put the quadratic in vertex form. And then we know the height, the maximum height that we get. So, without further ado, we have h equals negative 16t squared plus 32t plus 6. From here, I'm going to divide the negative 16 off of the t squared. So h equals negative 16 parentheses t squared plus 2. Oh, sorry, almost did it. Minus 2, because 32 divided by negative 16 is negative 2. Believe it or not, this is the third time that I'm making this video, because I made that mistake earlier and another one just a minute ago. So I've got that off. From here, we do our, remember, b divided by 2 squared. That's our little key. So take our b value, negative 2. Divided by 2, you get negative 1. Square it, you get positive 1. So, on the left side here, I'm going to subtract 16. That is an h over there, by the way. Minus 16 t squared minus 2t plus 1 parentheses plus 6. Now, before you freak out about the negative 16 on the left, remember, we didn't just add a 1 right there. We added a negative 16 times 1, because everything in the parentheses is multiplied by the coefficient out front. So we had to add that negative 16 on the left. From here, I'm going to move that negative 16 back to the right, and then I'm going to factor that quadratic. So we start off here. h equals negative 16. Two things that multiply to 1 but add to negative 2 are negative 1 and negative 1. And then 6 plus 16 is positive 24. From here, the last thing I'm going to do is combine those two binomials into 1 and say t minus 1 squared plus 24. Now, normally I would just go ahead and skip writing that part and go straight to this part, but I'm just trying to make sure everyone tracks along with me. So if that's my vertex form, my vertex is at positive 1, positive 24. Because remember, everything inside the parentheses is backwards. Everything inside the parentheses is x and backwards. Everything outside the parentheses is y and normal. And since the height is a y value, my maximum is at 24 feet. Okay. Part B. The drum major catches the baton when it is 4 feet above the ground. How long is the baton in the air? So we're solving for time in this. They say how long, so we want to know the time. So I'm going to go in and plug in 4 for the height. And I'm going to use that equation that we just derived. So plug in 4 for h. 4 equals negative 16 parentheses t minus 1 close parentheses squared plus 24. And then we're going to solve for t. First things first, move the 24 over. So I subtract 24. I get negative 20 equals negative 16 parentheses t minus 1 squared. Divide by negative 16. So negative 20 divided by negative 16 is a positive 20 over 16, which reduces down to 5 over 4. If you don't believe me, pause the video, reduce your fraction, you'll figure it out. Equals t minus 1 squared. To get rid of the squared, we simply square root both sides. That'll cancel out the squared. And I've got the square root of 5 over 4 equals t minus 1. And on this, I'm sorry, plus or minus 5 over 4 equals t minus 1. Now the last thing I'm going to do is move that negative 1 over, but while I do that, I'm also going to rationalize my denominator. We do not like radicals in the denominator. So move the 1 over, it becomes a positive 1, so 1 plus or minus the square root of 5 divided by, instead of the square root of 4, I'm going to put a 2 equals t. Alright? So, we actually have two answers here. We have t equals 1 plus the square root of 5 over 2, and we've got t equals 1 minus the square root of 5 divided by 2. Which one do they want? Because when you put them in your calculator, clump them both down, both of them are positive. It's probably going to go about like this. One's over here, and one's over there. Alright? That's when you add the square root of 5 over 2. This is when you subtract the square root of 5 over 2. So whenever you're figuring out which one you want, you got to go back to the question. The question asks, the drum major catches the baton when it's 4 feet above the ground. Okay? So question, did he capture it over here right after he threw it? Or do you catch something as it's coming back down to the ground? Yes. So the answer is, wow, I'm a doofus. Somebody's probably already pointed this out to you by now if you haven't freaked out a little bit. This one should be the plus, and that one should be the minus. That's 1 plus. So the answer is still this one on the right. I'm not going to do this problem for the 4th time just because of that little mistake. The answer is 1 plus the square root of 5 divided by 2. That is how long the baton is in the air if he catches it 4 feet off the ground.